Okay, so everybody understands the strategy. So what we'll do is I want to watch a psychology video. I know
Yes.
my brother doesn't believe in psychology videos, but it it's something in us that stops us from doing what we know to do. You know, when you see your entry signal, the only thing that prevents you from entering that trade is your negative thought process or some hitch in your giddy up, right? If you know you're supposed to get tapped into a trade and it doesn't tap you in, the thing that makes you jump in that trade is your FOMO. Uh, and if you end up losing that trade, then you deal with the consequences of losing a trade that you probably shouldn't have been in the first place. So it's very, very important, going into this week and really going into every week that we check our issues at the door and execute, going into the next week. So, for example, if you lost two trades last week and you know it was a bad week for you, you're only down 2%. That's the awesome thing about trading the strategy. You're down 2%. One trade, one win on this strategy, maybe you get 12% on that one win. Two positions in that trade, and it erases all the 2% loss, and it gives you a 10% gain on top of that. So I just want to encourage you guys to stay the course and stick with the parameters of the strategy. If you trade in the strategy that I introduced you to, if you're trading your own strategy, stick to your rules. If your rules tell you you don't trade on Wednesday, then don't trade on Wednesday. It's very important that we abide by whatever rules that we have established. Because those rules, at some point we decided that those rules would make us successful. This is the last month of 2022. Um, this could be the last working month of your life. This could be the last working year of your life. Maybe you go into next year, you can execute the strategy, and maybe you can get out of your job or get out of your situation. The bottom line is you can't worry about the money side of it. The money will be there. You have to trust me on that. It's the execution portion of it that you have to focus on, right? You focus on the execution portion and you live with whatever monies are there. And I can tell you, even if you're trading a $10,000 account, if you're making 10% a week, that's 4K uh, at the end of the month. You'll get your 80% or 90% cut, whoever you're trading with, basically. Um, if you're getting 80% of 4K, maybe it won't allow you to quit your job, but it will definitely allow you to buy a $20,000 challenge, right? Um, and with that $20,000 challenge, then you'll be making more than what you make at your job for sure. 3,200 bucks. Maybe that's not enough for you to live off of, but that's enough for you to buy the 20K challenge at 139 bucks. Then you'll double your income. 6,400 bucks a month is probably enough for you. It's probably more than what most people make um, in America. And you can work it out from there. The higher you go, the more you're going to make. $25,000 account is more than 6,200 bucks a month if you're executing your strategy. I don't need to say any more on that. I want to go ahead and get to this video. Do you guys have any questions over any of the trades you took last week? Sounds great.
Mad. That's 0.004% of your mind. You're like, I could have done better. It's my system. I'm going to follow it. 99.964% of your brain power is saying mission accomplished. You were scared and now you won't be, right? But you didn't get the goal you wanted. So start with like the money mindset. What's the trade? I'll come back to another trader interview.
This week I'm discussing with George Papasov. George is a guest that I had on the podcast many years back. It was among the first one, episode 66 of the podcast. And he was a trader that I back then really admired for his dedication to his craft of trading futures, which he's still doing now, but a little bit different. And also because of everything he did on the side of that. In this interview, we talk about what happened since then, but we also make a shift to psychology and how to improve your mindset, how you think, how you behave in the market, of course, your execution and things you do on a daily basis, and how to become a better trader overall with your execution and with building a really good lifestyle out of trading. So if you're not subscribed to the channel now, make sure you do so by clicking the subscribe button below. As you know, I publish videos like this almost every single day and an interview every single week. That way you won't miss out on any of the future content. So without further ado, let's dive right into the interview with George Papasov. Tell people who you are and a bit of background about yourself.
Yeah, Etienne, first and foremost, thanks for having me on the program. And I'm really happy to speak to you, and hopefully your listeners get value out of this. Episode 66 we did together, and I'm really happy that you're on like 270 now plus. So it's fantastic. Love your podcast. Good work for bringing this value to people. Since we talked, I mean, it was a while back. A lot's changed, including the markets. And here at my trading approach, it used to be more heavily invested in futures. So I would day trade futures for cash flow. And recently, there's with the shift of so much volume going into options, into stocks, into currencies, we've had to take a different approach. We've had to go out there and also take advantage of those markets. So, we've been busy at Trade Pro Academy. We've hired a few extra traders to help with that. So we have now a stock and option trader. We have a futures trader. We have two of them. So we've grown the team, we've grown our own style, we've adapted. This year has been historic in many ways. So it's provided a lot of opportunities for us to learn about markets, but as ourselves as well, we've grown a lot tremendously. So since then, that's what we've been up to, just growing the trading, growing ourselves. And, we've done a lot of work lately in the last 2 years or so on trading psychology. We realized that's a topic that a lot of people that trade, if you ask them, what's the biggest reason for your success? They'll say trading psychology, right? Trading is 100% psychology, but very few people actually invest in themselves in the psychology front. So we've built a lot of stuff around that as well, and taken a much deeper dive into it over the last year, especially.
The topic of psychology is kind of strange for a few reasons. So first of all, it's kind of hard to believe when you've not seen the results. Like you cannot believe that, oh, it's just if I do things differently, I'm going to succeed. It's hard to believe first. Right. But the other thing is that it's often not precise enough to know exactly what to work on. Right. And I think part of that, it depends, like every person, you got to work on a different thing depending on the institution and everything. So what would be kind of like an introduction to psychology, and what are some things people have to be careful about?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there with that statement. It's, psychology is a broad topic for a lot of people that don't really know where to start, right? And it's like, you think that if you have more success trading, you'll have better psychology. And so you say, I'll figure out psychology later on. And then you start looking at the nitty gritty, like strategy, systems, you're tweaking things, but you're leaving the operator out of the equation, right? It's like, you could have a Formula One car in your driveway tomorrow, and I bet you're not going to turn it on. You won't even be able to get out of the parking lot, let alone drive it at the same pace as Lewis Hamilton, right? So it's the machine that we look for, we put too much value on. I think it's more of the operator we need to work on. So on the psychology front, what we're finding is, people come into the trading business, Etienne, as you know, to make money, right? Anyone that says, I'm in this business because I love it, you love making money. And the prospect of being able to travel like you, which I'm super proud of what you're doing, right? It's the lifestyle that you seek through trading. Well, if we dial that back a little bit, think about success as a whole. There's a saying that goes, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so really, if you've been in a position where you've worked somebody your whole life, if your parents have been talking to you about values being, safety, do the safe thing, go get an education, work a job until you retire, build a retirement fund. These predispositions and values you carry with you into trading. When people start out into this industry, they think, I got to learn everything all over. But the thing you don't get to relearn is how your brain is wired, right? And so here's some of the nitty gritty things I think people have a challenge with is success mindset, right? Being able to believe that you'll succeed rather than saying, if I get a strategy, I'll be able to succeed. You have to approach it with, no matter what happens, I'm going to succeed, with that mindset of, I embrace uncertainty. And I think a lot of times in trading, we don't brace uncertainty. We spend so much time trying to avoid uncertainty. I want to get the trade right 100% of the time. And so that's one of the things I think is paramount psychology is we're not taught from school and from young years how to deal with uncertainty. Our relationship to risk isn't taking risk and managing it, it's avoiding it. And so right off the bat, no strategy will really help you with that if the operator needs some work. And so this is why we spend so much time. Another thing is money mindset, right? It's like, how are you going to make all this money in the trading business if your mindset around money and the beliefs that you've built around money are ones that you don't deserve it? All right, we hear a lot of times you got to work harder to make more money. How many times have your parents told you that? I remember when I was trading, my mom's like, "Look, why don't you get a real job?" I she thought that trading was less likely to happen than being a musician. So it's these values that we've heard over and over since kids that have set our psychology in a way that if we start trading without working on the psychology aspect, we're kind of doomed to fail because everything you've been taught up to this point doesn't support you or help you for trading, right? It's like it's the opposite of what you need. People think, money is hard to come by. Well, if you have that belief, you're going to make it true by manifesting it into this reality. So we oftentimes, when we start with psychology, we get people to do a self-assessment. Where are you at? And one of the biggest components, Etienne, with psychology, I think, is it's a concept called living at cause. So when things go wrong, right, a lot of what we're trained to do is look for who is the problem. Like, hey, my trading's not working. The system's not working. My software sucks. We're always looking outward, and living at cause means asking yourself this one sentence: how am I a cause for this? And I'm one of those extremists that if I get rear-ended by somebody behind me, I'm thinking, how am I a cause for this? So it really starts by taking really severe responsibility for your outcome. And I think that's the part that's lacking. We do such a deep dive into this because it goes into neuro-linguistic programming, which I spent a lot of money to get certified on, and that's helped my trading a lot.
Yeah, the money mindset is huge for sure. That's something that I had a hard time with, so I kind of like to talk about it also. That's a good topic.
Yeah.
And then being able to understand that kind of you'll figure it out, you'll have the answer, you'll be able to achieve big things. That's something that for me I learned with traveling, because like you always like stuck in different situations where you have to figure things out. Over time you get to kind of understand that you'll figure things out whatever happens. But how do you teach that to someone else that they can figure things out? Because it kind of comes with themselves, no? How do you explain them that they can achieve something big?
Yeah, so I mean that's really the most important part is the ability for yourself to believe success is possible. And if you're from a family where it was blue collar, a lot of hard work, it's going to be hard for you. You might have even been trained to believe that money's evil, right? Look at all the programs, all the villains, the rich guys, etc. And so you look at that as entertainment when you're a young kid, but everything you do, the brain records, especially the subconscious mind. From 0 to 7 years is when your values are imprinted. It's called the imprint period. And here, by the time you're 7 years old, you've already formed your values, your belief systems, and your actions to support those values and beliefs. So really, the sad truth is, Etienne, it's like a train track. By the time you're 7, you're usually set on one track. And you know that trains don't get off tracks. If they do, it's an accident. It's not a good thing. And so what people do is they stay on the track for the rest of their life until they're up to 7 years old. And that's the scary part. You are who you are at 60 as you were at 7, unless you take action to change those values. So to answer your question, one way to do it is we do something called values elicitation. And so you basically ask yourself, if we're working on career, the question would be what's important to you about your career? And you do this rapid fire because people like to think a lot. But here's a cool fact. The conscious mind is only 0.004% of the interpretation of information. The subconscious processes 99.96. So any single second, you see 2 million bits of information around you. Think about this, how your socks feel on your feet right now. I don't know if you have socks, but I'm going to guess, you could feel it now, but you didn't before. So the bottom line is the brain could process just a little bit over 128 bits, which means you delete, distort, or you generalize information, the majority of information. No one's seeing reality. So to answer that question, now that you understand how the mind works, we try to do change at the conscious level, right? The rational brain, because that's the one we can control easily. But really, it's more on an unconscious level that those changes are made. So if you have values and beliefs around money that are limiting beliefs, like if you believe, I'm only gonna make as much as I work. I don't deserve to be successful. Abundance is for other lucky people, but it's not for me. Me and my family have never had access to it. These statements actually hurt my heart, even though it's an example. You're gonna have to work on that first. So how do you do it? How do you become more abundantly focused? Because as traders, we tend to think that if we trade good, we have success and money, right? It's the opposite. If you have a success mindset already, you end up trading good because you're not looking at the charts from a state of lack. You're looking at it from a state of opportunity. So to answer your question directly, you have to become more opportunity focused. Like, in the trading business, we always say manage risk. Risk management's the most important. But nobody says get paralyzed by managing risk. You have to accept the risk, manage it, but you have to be opportunity focused. You're not looking at a chart, where will I lose the least money? You're saying, where would I make the most money for the lowest amount of risk? And so we really just got to change that thinking. So I would start with eliciting your values. Ask yourself what's important to you about trading over and over. So you come up with 10 words. Those 10 words are going to be your values. If safety is your number one value, if you say, the most important thing to me about my career is safety. If that comes up first, you're going to have a hard time with any strategy. Like, you could go on Twitter and get Pax's strategy, who's a floor trader, 6 pages long, the whole thing. You won't succeed with that. It's all about really taking a deep dive into your values. And if safety is your first one, you're going to need to do some more work up in this space. If you're listening to it, I just pointed to my head. You have to work more on the inside before you even approach trading.
How long did it take you to figure this out, that you had to work on your mindset first and that trading results would come eventually later? Did you figure this out in the beginning, or did it take a few years to be able to understand that better?
I figured it out when I was like 30, to be honest with you. Now I'm 35. So this is a recent revelation in my life. And, the sad part is a lot of people don't figure it out for their whole life. And my parents immigrated to Canada from Bulgaria. So, they had very little to offer me. But I'm very blessed and happy for the sacrifice they made. Giving up your life and everything for the better of your kid's future. That's like a stand-up move. Like, I don't even know how my dad and my mom decided to do that. So, I appreciate and respect them deeply, but the values that I got from them about money didn't really serve me. But when I was young, Etienne, I always wanted to make things, like, I always liked to create and develop things. I was always hustling. Yeah, I remember when CDs were a thing. You remember this little CD player, the compact disc? I would burn CDs for my friends and sell it to them for $20 a piece. Now you can just download music and stream it. But I always had this approach that I wanted to hustle. I've always wanted to create. And to me, what's important in my value system isn't wealth. My value system is creation. One of my biggest values, Etienne, is I want to create over consuming. All right. If I'm going to consume, I'm consuming it with the intention to create something. And so that's what's really led to that mindset. So my whole life to 30 has been about creating. Let me just make some great things. We're all here for such a short period of time on this earth. I just want to create and make the place a better place for tomorrow. And I know that sounds corny and cheesy or whatever it is, but that's what's in my heart. And then when I hit 30, I started being able to quantify those thoughts. Because success mindset, you see a lot of podcasts, books, but how do you quantify what success mindset is? It means different things to different people. And that's when I really took the journey deeper inward at the end. And it's helped my trading significantly. And really, not the results have improved, but what's improved more is my satisfaction. And when I'm satisfied, I'm not out there looking for stupid trades, trying to get this big home run to double my account in one trade. I'm okay with the trajectory I'm on because I'm creating, I'm building things, and I'm growing personally. So that journey started in my early 30s.
That's a good point, though. Like I mentioned before, we trade for money, but we also trade for having an amazing life, right? That's the goal for most people. So if you trade but don't have the satisfaction of being good at what you do, then it's just not worth it. So might as well be good and be satisfied with what you do, and then get good results as well at the same time.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, we think we want money in life, but the money is just paper. Think about it. The Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell's out there like printing $100 billion a month. Money is just created out of thin air. It's a human construct. And it's sad that we get our value based on something that humanity just created randomly. What's more important is creating, and you're 100% right on that. To me, like, that was a big revelation. It was very freeing to say, look, it doesn't matter how much money I make. What matters is what I do, and that's going to lead to the money. Because we think if we can get this, For example, if I was a successful trader, I could travel like Etienne and work on my own schedule. But you could already do a component of that now. You don't have to wait till you have the money. Money at the end of the day is meaningless. And the worst thing in life about money is getting some and then figuring out it doesn't make you happy. If you're not happy before money, the money is the accelerator for your unhappiness, if that makes sense. It's more of an inward journey. And I've learned to separate that. Because I didn't have a lot of money, like we grew up in a suburb in Toronto that's pretty, low income. I remember sleeping on a mattress on the floor with cockroaches on me in the middle of the night. And back then, hell yeah, I wanted money, right? But now at this position in life, I realize, they say things like money doesn't buy you happiness, but unfortunately in life, you got to make something to realize that. And it's a very empty feeling. You got to do it for something more because money is just a coupon. You remember, what's that movie called with Wolf of Wall Street? That's the one. Remember fun coupons, he calls them. You don't want money, you want the experience. And so you could think more about what experiences you want now. That'll bring you more money than just trying to focus on money. It's such a shallow endeavor, if you will. My belief, at least.
It's really true. I've seen for myself how you can have money, but then the thing you wanted to have with that money feels like, oh, it's just like normal now. So it doesn't matter. It's like, this sucks. I want to have something else, something different.
Yeah, well, you can have anything.
Get there, and it's always the same thing. So it's definitely good to have money. I don't disagree with that. That's for sure. But at the same time, you want to have different reason for doing what you do on a daily basis.
Want to hear a fun quote? Money doesn't buy you happiness, but it's a damn good down payment. So that's my belief, and I'm with you, man. Like when you have money to buy stuff, you don't want the stuff as much as you did before you had the money to do it.
Yeah, it's awesome. So tell me about your training style and kind of what you trade on a daily basis. Has that changed a lot in the last 2 years or so, or has it been pretty much the same thing you do on a daily basis?
Yeah, the core strategy is still an order flow trading approach to futures. So what we're doing is really a heavy focus on the price ladder, looking at a heat map where you're seeing bids and offers, which by the way could be applied to currencies as well. One of the neat things I've done some research on is looking at the currency future and then being able to derive price levels on the actual spot market from it. There's a really heavy component because if you're trading currency futures, you're probably doing some kind of hedging on institutional level. Most retail people don't trade currency futures. So, we've been looking at futures with order flow. We've been doing a very deep analysis into that. It's been working. So the core of my strategy is day trading futures for cash flow. So every single day I start with cash, do some trades, and I end in cash. So overnight, I'm not taking any risk. And what's changed in my approach is now I'm adding more stocks and options. We've always been stock and option traders, but rewind a year ago, that wasn't a sexy business. Most people looked at stocks, said, why would I want to trade it actively? I want to buy and hold forever, like Buffett, because everybody wants to be Buffett for some reason. And so, we day trade short term with futures, but then we do longer term positions at the end in stocks and options and in currencies at times. A little bit less of those, but we've diversified our approach to this market because there's everything's so interconnected, right? It's like if somebody sneezes in China, US can get the cold by the morning. I mean, that's quite literal now with the pandemic, but you have to look at multiple markets. So we're looking at the whole market, identifying opportunities, and all of that is based on order flow, even on stocks and options. We're just looking at big money and following it.
What made you want to go with different markets? Was it just to be able to diversify more, or was it because you saw opportunities there that you could benefit from? What made you want to jump to the markets?
Yeah, so I started out as a currency trader, actually, at the end in 2001. And I didn't even trade currencies. I traded XAU USD, the contract for difference, CFD. And I had really good success with it early on. I was the kid that was doing the trades, and then on the other screen I had Ferrari pictures and cottages. That didn't end well. That didn't end well. I ended up riding a bicycle. I grew an account big and I blew it up just as quickly. And from there I started focusing on risk. So I've always had the background in the spot market and currencies. Then I evolved to do more options. And around 2012, I've been trading options from then until now. It's just I've put that in the background and traded it more myself rather than putting out content for it as well. So, I've always been doing it, but lately in the last 9 months or so, post-pandemic and a little bit before it, options activity has exploded. You're seeing a lot of moves. And the unique thing that's changed in today's market is I'm now applying order flow to it. Before I would just do technical analysis, I find some levels, buy a straight call or put, and then manage risk from there. Now I'm looking at pretty sophisticated technology to pull and extract big orders. So it's called unusual activity. So if somebody buys, $20 million of Apple above the ask at 3:58 p.m., that's important. That information becomes very actionable. So I've really tweaked the process lately, but I've always traded options since about 2012. I started with currencies in 2001. I've been keeping it going the whole time, but now there's just so much opportunity in all markets. It's like there's been a lot of movement, and that movement, what do we traders? We just look for volatility. And so the volatility has really attracted me towards those products.
What would be your advice for someone who is looking to understand the order flow better, or at least learn how to use it? What should they learn? Where should they start?
Yeah, so if you're looking to start order flow, we could maybe start right here on the podcast and demystify what it is, right? Order flow is like a really sexy term. It's like that girl in the club that wants to get someone's attention, That's order flow. So if you strip the concept down, it's really at the end of the day looking at orders, level 2 data, right? Looking at the price ladder, which means where are the bids and the offers? Bids and offers are intentions to buy and sell. And while they're not trades on the market, they are intention in the future to make a trade. So wherever you see big buying quantities that are sitting in big selling quantities, those are liquidity levels. Those are levels at which you're probably going to magnetize toward. And the starting concept would be to look at the very basics, understand how an auction works, right? If you've ever gone to, like, you probably do this a lot in Thailand, you ever gone to a market, something looks good, and they're asking for, it's Bach there, right?
Yeah.
So what would like a pair of shoes cost there? A pair of Nikes, let's say.
I don't know, an expensive one like a brand one would cost probably like 5,000 baht.
All right, so let's say you go in the store like 5,000 baht. You're like, I'll give you 2,500 for it. Well, now you're a bid. The owner has a choice to accept your bid or to reject it. And so if you've ever asked for a discount or something, if you tried to ever negotiate anything in your life, whether it's buying a pair of shoes or having a night out with your friends, with your wife, come on, honey, give me a day here. You've done an auction market. You've auctioned it before, and you've done order flow. So really strip down the order flow. You're going to get attracted. If you type in order flow into Google, a lot of stuff are going to come up that's really complex. But a good starting ground is understand how bids and offers in the market go through the ladder and then flow into the market, because the term flow is looking at bids and offers and how do they actually transact. There's two things you compare in order flow: bids and offers, who's buying and selling with their orders, and then what actually goes through a market. So think of it as intent versus what's executed. From there, you could start to spoof out algorithmic activity. You can see large spec traders, you can see stop runs. There's a lot of info that comes from those very simple concepts. So I'd say simplify it, learn to understand the foundation first before getting these like really sexy tools and cool stuff that later on is more important.
And what made you go from technical analysis to order flow? Was it one thing that you learned, or was it one you came across?
When I started futures trading, it was in 2014. And at the time, I checked out something called a footprint chart. So the way that I got attracted to it is, remember, I've grown significantly. I'd say probably 90% of my development has happened in 30% of the time, and it's the last 30%. So I'm researching online, and I see this chart that I've never seen before. It's called the footprint chart, and it basically shows you the bid times the offer, what's traded in the market at any given level. It's like a volume profile, but on the volume profile, imagine being able to zoom into that candle and say, all right, did they sell on the bid or on the ask? Because that's important. And so, you look at that, and then that starts to be my foundation. And Etienne, in my life, I don't know why, until about 30, I did everything the hard way. Like I had to bang my head off the keyboard a lot of times, which is good. I love it because I learn a lot. But my God, the amount of time it takes me to do something new could be shortened a lot and condensed. And so I always take the hard route in life. So I started with, here's the fancy picture of these order flow indicators, and I worked back down to them. I was introduced to the footprint chart by the owner himself, Trevor Harnett. At the time, he ran a company called Market Delta. And, through that, I was able to, they were on a platform, Investor RT, and I was able to do very powerful stuff. Like imagine having a chart and you zoom in And when the candle's so big, it pops open for order flow. And there you see bids and offers and how the candle formed. I was hooked from there. I'm like, I don't know how to read this information, but I know it's important enough to have to learn it. And so that started probably about 2014 for my futures trading. And I've been really more deep diving since then. It's been a constant learning journey. And there's still always more to learn. I don't consider myself knowing everything. I think everyone that does know everything or claims to, short that person if they have stock selling.
I like it. Now, this sounds fascinating for sure from the way you explain it. So I'm pretty sure if people want to learn more, they can start to research and find things about it for sure. Now, one thing that you probably agree on, which is mentioned, as traders, we always work on improving ourselves. We always work on different things and new things. What is one thing that you've worked on recently or that you want to work on in the future about your trading or something around your trading?
Yeah, that's a fascinating discussion in its own. As new traders, what is the goal? Usually a brand new trader's goal is to be consistent, at least a small amount, right? Replace their income is usually the first significant milestone. For me, it's, and this is an interesting part. I open up about this all the time. So I'm an open book. Ask me any follow-up questions you need. But for me, it's finding this balance between talking about trading and then doing the trading. It's like I've hit a ceiling in my own personal trading. And it sounds like a good problem for somebody who's losing trades. It's probably a good problem, but it's one of the toughest challenges I've had is like breaking through that plateau, putting more size on, going for bigger goals. I've tended to hit a bit of a comfort zone. In August of this year, I became a father to firstborn son, sweet little kid. And, I've settled into this safety net here, Etienne, that I just need to break through it. This is the first time in my life I have a sense of security and safety, and I hate it. For some reason, I don't like it one bit. I want to break through. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to push myself to break through this barrier because people love to look at traders and then say, well, how much money did they make? What if that money they made is not even enough for you? For example, there's people who say, when we ask in our trading environment, how many, what are your goals? Somebody will say $200 a day. Somebody will say 1,500. There's people that say 10 grand a day. If Jeff Bezos made $10,000 a day, he'd have to file bankruptcy. So it's like everyone is on their own journey. And to me, what I'm at the moment working through is breaking through that plateau and trying to do better, do more. Because this year, I'm open, like I always say, and honest about this stuff. I had a harder time trading the COVID pandemic because going into it, my son was going to be born. I underperformed. Now that kind of puts some demons on the back of your mind, like 2020 should have been better for you. Now you're trading from behind. So I'm working through that psychology, and I'm working on being self-aware to an extreme. I consider myself to be very self-aware, but I want to go to the next level. So that's kind of, if you look at 2021 roadmap for George's development, that's it right there. It's breaking plateaus.
That's a good point, and I relate a lot to that because I kind of have the same problem myself with having a business, different things I do and everything around. It's like it's hard to kind of level up with trading at the same time. So I was able to kind of do that slowly, but not as fast as I would like to do it, which is fine, but there could be more to be done for sure.
Yeah. What are some of the steps you took, Etienne? I know, like, I want to turn the table a little bit on you.
No. So what I did to help me the most, which had a pretty big impact, was to get a coach. So I hired a coach that I talked with a few times, Randy Owl. So I started to work with him for a few months. That helped a lot, like on the mindset more, and being able to, like you mentioned, be more self-aware. So that's pretty much what to work on the most. I had tendency to kind of screw up over time when things would go really well, then I would screw up. That's why I had to work on like getting back on the right track all the time. So that was the biggest thing. So that helped me a little bit. And the other aspect is just making a plan and following through and kind of course correcting over time as things start to go well and fall down.
That's amazing. Is it a trading coach or more like a mindset coach that you hired?
More a mindset coach, but for trading.
Yeah. That's what I would do too. Like I don't think it's like you're going to coach Roger Federer how to serve. No, you're going to coach Roger Federer how to keep his mindset. You remember, I don't know if you watch tennis, he used to be like known for breaking rackets and have this like lapses of discipline, and hired the right coach who got through it. So hiring a coach is actually a fantastic idea. And when I look to improve my trading, this is going to sound absolutely nuts. When I look to improve my trading, I read everything but trading literature. I'll read psychology books. I like sports psychology at the moment. I'm really deep diving into that, and a coach is actually a great idea. I might, it's been a thought. It's just the time commitment to it. But if you're not willing to invest time in yourself, where are you investing time? What else is more worth than yourself?
Honestly, the topic this year is probably the year where I spent the most in like education and coaching and everything overall. usually I spend like a few thousand every year, but this year I really kind of went all in, which is a bit insane and a bit like stressful at times, but it's definitely a good thing where I'm sure it's going to pay off over time. So that's a good thing.
Amazing, man. The larger your mindset becomes, the results will get filled in. I think, you know how we have leading and lagging indicators? I think
Yeah.
your mindset is a leading indicator to your trading performance. I think if you hit a plateau in trading, you've hit a plateau with your psychology. And so I'm happy to hear that. I'm going to consider doing the same. It's a big goal for me in 2021. And one part that people in this industry don't talk about is, and I like to hit this. I don't mind discussing it openly. Is how do you perform versus also trying to create content for others? Like I understand a lot of traders in the business say, "Show me your statements. I want to see how much money you made." If I was a student, going back in 2001, I'd want somebody who doesn't trade. Like, come here and spend all your time with me. If you're out there putting trades, it's taking your attention away from me, and I'm your customer. But like that's I have a different mindset. I've been called other words. I'm going to say different, but there's been other words that have been used to describe me, and so it's balancing that out. I'm putting profit on the table because I'm also talking about it. A lot of times, speech is the slowest form of communication. By the time I say something, I've thought 300 things already because I move fast. And so that's part of the issue, Etienne, is that I have to talk about the stuff that I'm also doing. Now, there's also benefits in it, accountability. I'm not likely to go and do anything stupid because I got to show all my trades at the end. In our trading room, we at the end of the day I review all the trades. Here's where I got in, here's where I got out, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So it's that the accountability is nice, but that's one of the challenges with me is like I want to give back, but I also want to do good for myself, and that's the balance that I'm constantly grappling with. It's not a 2020 problem; it's been the whole way through since 2012.
Yeah. I had a discussion with this with another trader a few days ago about the same topic. So, and this is kind of like a different twist in interview for sure, something completely outside of the box. But
Yeah,
the point is like you want to figure out what works for you and what you like to do anyway, because it doesn't matter what people think necessarily. You want to find out what you like to do. And so this guy I spoke with 2 days ago, a trader, was for him what he likes the most, being able to trade for other people, like professionals, trade for like investors, and that's what he does. That's what he likes. He could trade all day and be happy. I'm different. If I were to trade all day, like every day, all the time, I would be really angry and pissed off, and I would not be fulfilled. So it's
yeah,
about finding out what you want to do, and then just go to that, and then people think it's bad or whatever. It doesn't matter because it's your life anyway. So you do whatever you want to do.
exactly. You got to find the best fit for you. If you can't find the best fit for you as a person, how are you going to find a good trade? It's a lot more difficult. So I just think it comes down to personality type, right, Etienne? Like, there are some people who don't want to share and they want to be cooped up. I've been there. I can share a personal story with you. When I quit Scotiabank, I was a trader there. When I left, when I quit Scotiabank and started trading on my own, go to the environment where I used to trade. There's a whole desk full of traders. There's on the floor, there are probably 60 plus traders. But I'm in there talking to people. I'm hearing some guy talk about bonds where I'm trading equities. I hear some guy talking about currencies. I hear somebody on the phone with a client. I'm getting all this info. I go home, everything just quiets down. And I hate that. I mean, I'm sitting here the first 3 months of when I quit, I was down $20,000 in my first month. I'm like, geez, this isn't going well. So now that I have to do it 100% and rely on that income, it was more tough. I adjusted eventually. I came back after the 3 month period. But here was the real danger in it. And I'm telling you this brutal honesty. Sitting at the computer one day, I'm long oil. I made a couple $1,000s, which is great. And I start drinking Jack Daniels at 10:15 in the morning. That's going to cause problems. You could lie to yourself and say, just this one day, but if you do this profession, this is a team sport. This isn't tennis. This is more like hockey, football, basketball. You look at traders in any professional environment, they're not alone in the corner. So why do it from your bedroom? But there are personality types that thrive by themselves. But in trading, the more you're around a community, like joining a community like Desire to Trade, having friends and traders who have walked this journey before you to discuss with, that's an invaluable asset. This is not an individual sport. And so when you do grasp trading and when you're part of a community, there's two types of traders. The ones that just make money and quietly do it and then give back in life through other adventures, or everyone wants to give back. So maybe they feed the homeless, whatever they do. My way of giving it back is teaching people how to do this, because part of my story is in 2009, I joined the trading desk as a customer service rep. I was taking phone calls, some of these phone calls haunt me, man, to this day. I hear those voices. The guys sell me out. What's my margin after I get out? Like $9,000. It's like, well, it was 130K just 4 months ago. It's like, at least I have 9,000. I could afford a funeral. Now I got to get compliance on that. Now we got to get somebody to go and actually check up on that. Like it was a tough freaking time. And the most brutal part about it, Etienne, is that all the traders are short and we're taking phone calls from clients, who are long. And so it's like, look, there's people that do it successfully. They're just on this side of the phone, not the other side, right? A lot of the retail traders were losing money. Even the most wealthy people in their brokerage were losing money in big time and had these same psychology challenges as others. So I'm talking a lot about this because I think it's important. At the end of the day, when you're first new, try not to decide what kind of trader you want to be. Have an open mind. Find somebody that works for you, and you'll find out what you're about. And because it's like people feel this business, successful traders are unicorns, and if you're out there giving content to somebody, then you must be doing it because you aren't trading, right? And I understand it. And unfortunately, Etienne, there's less people like you and I that care, and more people that use this as a marketing business. This isn't a marketing business. This is a content human connection business. And so for me, I would, if I stopped helping other people, I would stop trading too. I lose the passion immediately. Been doing this since 2001. It's almost like a whole other lifetime ago. So it's important that you vet some people that you're interested in working with, but don't get too caught up on that. And at the end of the day, I think you should go to multiple people and just pull from those resources.
Yeah, it's definitely a good point. I think you also gotta try different things. Like it's really fun to try teaching if you want to see how it is and how you like it and how you benefit from it too. So like I did before, I tried trading for other people, for investors. I tried doing different things. I tried to trade and travel. I tried a bunch of different things that I eventually find out the things I love and that I want to spend time and focus on, and then drop the other things around that.
That's how you find what you love. Just do a whole bunch of stuff. You don't just pick one thing and then dedicate your life to it. Just try a bunch of stuff. And like for new traders who say, hey, look, I just want to learn. Well, guess what? You don't know it until you teach it. Like in a community, in a good community, what you should be doing is finding an accountability partner. You don't have to be out there on YouTube. Like I didn't know we're going to be on camera. I would have got a haircut, looked better. There's an investment you got to make in yourself to put the content out, but you could still help other people. You could coach people who are just starting. No matter where you start, you know more than some people and less than others. So being able to learn from the people you know and transfer that info to the people that don't is the fastest way to become a trader, a successful trader, because being able to teach other people gives you the opportunity for self-reflection, but then a reflection from an unbiased perspective. It's not your money now, and the opinions that come out of you could help you internally as well. So I think to really thrive, you got to be able to learn and teach at all times. And once any of those two go, it's over for you. If you're not constantly learning, or if you're not helping teach others or yourself, then you're on a downward spiral. The money you've made up to this point is because of the hard work yesterday. And if you stop learning and you say, I know everything, I'm good, now I'm just going to coast the rest of my life. If you're a stock, I'm shorting you too.
That's one of the things that's really fascinating me with the big traders that I know. They don't want to share what they do on like YouTube or anything. They just want to be able to trade, and either they manage their fund or they have a lot of things to do, of course, but they're always willing to learn new things. They always ask questions about what I do, what different people around them do. And even if they're new traders, they ask what they do. And they're curious about what other people are working on and doing. And they try to like just teach in their own way of like giving some sparks to other people, which is awesome, I think.
It's great, and I think people who have information that they don't want to share will eventually fail because that's how much importance they're putting on that information. Think about it. I have this proprietary strategy that I can't share with you. Well, if you can't share it with me, you're probably so closed off that you're not learning about what's going to be working tomorrow, right? So congratulations, you're protecting all this info today that's working for you, but that closed off mindset is not going to lead to growth. And in fact, the people who trade the best, the most successful traders are the most likely to share too.
That's true. Yeah.
To get to that mindset, not sharing is a lack mindset, and you're not going to do well with lack mindset. So people who have gotten to that massive success that we idolize are the ones that are most likely to share it too. I believe if you got something good, you share it. And we owe it to everyone before us. The millions of people that have died that sacrificed themselves. Like back in the day, people died at 25. All right, we get to live to 60. We owe it to them to help propel society forward. I don't want to make this too philosophical, but I think if you know something that's valuable, you share it. And that's just my personal belief.
I totally agree with that. That's a good lead transition to the money mindset as well. So You mentioned scarcity in terms of what you know and what method you use or what strategy you have, whatever. But there's a big scarcity in terms of money as well. Like you don't want to spend your money, you want to keep it. And for a long time, I've been in that situation where I was looking at the price for everything, like calculating which one was the cheapest and everything, and trying to really find the best price, even if it's just a couple of like a few dollars, like tens of dollars. In the end, it makes no big difference. So, how did you kind of improve your money mindset? How did you work on that?
Yeah, so I mean, as a young kid, Etienne, like I always believed I deserved to be successful, right? I spent this was before social media. Like kids these days, it's a bit of a dark view. You're at a disadvantage. Like you're taking all this time looking at other people's life. How much time are you investing in thinking of yours? I used to sit at home and think for hours. And I think thinking is a lost art. And so back then I thought about, look, if I didn't deserve the wildest success possible in this world, why the hell am I here? Why would I be here if I don't deserve it? Why don't and if I don't deserve it, why should I take up more breath from other people who are out there who do think they deserve it? So I have, I'm an extremist in a lot of ways. Always be afraid of an extremist with a beard. But but like I guess what I could tell you is I had the money mindset to begin with, and it was just more or less about growing into it. But if you're an individual who has a low self worth, I could tell you a few things to help you with that right now. It's all about a reframe. So if somebody thinks, as traders, we spend so much time in logical thought, strategy, here's the volume, because we're really afraid to deep down dive into our own personality, right? We're closed off ourselves. We put a wall. We're like, working on me is a scary place to be. And so I think start out with asking yourself, what are your beliefs around money? And it'll be shocking to a lot of the listeners because they probably haven't asked themselves that question. And those beliefs and values have come from the time you were 7 years old, the imprint period. If you've never questioned that, the values are the same, they haven't changed. Start with just being reflective. Get a piece of paper out and answer this question as much words as come to your mind. Don't think about it, just let the things flow out. That's your subconscious. When you think about things, that's 0.004% of your brain. When you ask yourself a question and listen and it pops up, that's your subconscious. That's important stuff. Ask yourself, what is important to me about money? And list it on a piece of paper. If safety is up there, you're going to have a hard time trading. If family security is up there, it's going to be a hard time trading. If growth is there, if you're like, abundance, I want to just live the best life I can, you're going to do good. Trading is going to enrich that endeavor. So find out your beliefs around money. That's really important because at the end of the day, you don't realize this, but every time you click the mouse to enter a trade, you're actually a living personification of your value system. You're putting your value system on the market. And if your value is safety, you're going to be so focused on risk that you get scared when you lose. And when you get scared, you trigger a nervous system that's 1,000 years old that's going to get you out of the position at a loss. Because what the traders do, they start out scared to trade. So out of fear, they lose more money. Now they're trading from behind. If you lose 50% of your account, you got to make 100 to get back. So that brings in fear. Now you're fighting from behind. That brings in more fear until they blow out their account. Why is blowing out their account success in the subconscious mind? Because you no longer have money to risk. The fear is over. Your subconscious mind wants to get you out of fear. Unfortunately, if you have values that aren't serving you, the fastest way out of fear is to stop doing what you're doing, meaning blowing out your account. Rationally, you're like, damn it, I'm mad. That's 0.004% of your mind. You're like, I could have done better. It's my system. I'm going to follow it. 99.964% of your brain power is saying mission accomplished. You were scared and now you won't be, right? But you didn't get the goal you wanted. So start with like the money mindset. Start with what are your values and beliefs around money? If safety is up there, you could reframe that. If you ask people, what about safety is important? People say, well, I just want to take care of my family. I want to be able to pay the bills, go on a vacation, and that's it. Most people have simple goals of what safety is. And you ask them, look, if you were making $10 million a year, wouldn't you be able to do that anyways? And they'll say, well, yeah, but I don't want $10 million. Why not? Why not? Why don't you deserve that money? And it goes down to self-worth, Etienne. I think our self-worth has been really deteriorated, especially younger kids listening to this. Turn off the social media. Mark Zuckerberg's kids are not on Facebook. All right, Jack Dorsey, I don't know if he has kids. Kids are not on Twitter. There's this movie called The Social Dilemma on Netflix. At the end, the most mind-blowing part is that they said, my kids would never be on there. Oh, we have strict rules. Yet these teenagers are in there having a chance to consume a piece of somebody's life that they never worked to get. That's such a dangerous thing. That deteriorates your self-worth. You're 16. Who cares what a 40-year-old, what kind of Ferraris he has? You're 16 years old. Be 16 and grow. And I think, because we're looking at all this information for free, because we could jump in someone's life on Instagram without having worked for it, it takes away from the satisfaction. And self-worth is very important. I'll tell you this, if you're on this planet, you're just as worthy as anyone else. You don't, one way to work on self-worth is gratitude. Like how much time do we say, I don't want to work for my boss. I don't want a 9 to 5. I don't. Ask those people, what do you want? Silence. How are you going to get what you want if all you're thinking is what you don't want? And so your self-worth is directly tied to that. You're an abundant human being. If you're breathing air, if you're alive, your price tag is much higher than any money. The Fed could print for 600 years and you're worth more than every penny that they've printed. So I think those are some concepts to start dealing with and doing a deep dive. I know it's not like, hey, when the MACD crosses and volume's there, you get long. But I think it's more important, work on your self-worth and your money mindset.
Very good point. On that similar topic, you had an episode recently on your podcast about meditation.
Yeah.
So we're going to go about the podcast for sure later. It's called Mind Over Markets. I recommend people check it out as well when they listen to this episode of the podcast too. You can check out yours as well, which is awesome, of course.
All right. So the rest of that is gibberish. But I want to talk about something just for a minute. I know this was a very long video, but there were some very good points that he brought out. Everybody who's on this chat, I want you to know that you already have a successful trading system. I've given it to you. It's successful. It works more than me. A few people have had success operating the system. So you don't have that to worry about. The system is successful. It's you who introduced the problem, right? If you're not making money, you have to look internally, right? And just like he said, you have to start with your values. How do you view money? What's the first things that come to your mind, about money? And a lot of people say security. And there's a reason that some people have figured out how to live life within this system that the government has given us, and other people don't operate very well in the system. Trading is different from working a job. You can apply some of the money management techniques if you want to, but trading goes directly against the mindset that you have working for somebody. So you have to spend some time working on those things before you'll find a sustained level of success. Another thing, some people always ask me, hey man, why do you only have that 50K and a 20K account? Fool, it's because that's what I've mastered, right? And for people who've never worked on their psychology, they don't understand it. It's not as simple as take this challenge for a 500K account, get your 500K account and trade it. It doesn't work like that. We'd all like to think that it works like that. But the truth of the matter is it doesn't. You have to get yourself to that level. So I probably could have advanced, my account at this point. I will advance in 2023. But it was important to me to set a goal of being consistent on these accounts this year. And here we are, I've accomplished that goal. It was very difficult, and what I'd like to give you guys going forward is once you have your account qualified, if the first thing that you think about is going to the next level, don't be surprised if it doesn't work, because you might not be there mentally. You're used to seeing whatever numbers you're used to seeing. Maybe those numbers are too big. Maybe you need to go down in account size, right? Another thing, you trading a 50K account, you have $4,000 profit. If you don't make $4,000 a month, Why are you continuing to go out there and risk the 4,000 you have in hand? Just wait for a payout. Receiving the payout is the most important thing when it comes to Forex. If you put in the work and you have 4K in your account, why would you risk blowing your account if you've never received a payout? These are psychological issues that we have as traders, and all of us has to approach these issues in our own manner. But um, those are very important things to think about prior to coming into that situation, because every one of us at some point is going to pass a challenge. You're going to take a few trades. Maybe you trade 2 weeks and you win your 10% those 2 weeks, right? So maybe you're looking at 20%. So that's 10K on a 50K account. I mean, you don't have to trade the last 2 weeks of that month. Just trade in a demo. Open up a different account. Make sure you get that $8,000 payout, because that $8,000 at the end of that month is more than you've ever made in a month in your life. Why would you go back to risk that? So it's those types of things that you never really think about until you're in that moment, right? All right. So another important point: stop watching other people's lives. I mean, he mentioned that about 3 or 4 times. You can only live your life, right? It's okay to see somebody's life as an example, right? A Warren Buffett, a Q Banks, whoever your favorite trader is, as an example. But then you focus on your life and level up your life. How much time do you study? How much time do you practice? When's the last time you back tested? Those are the things that you have to do to become an excellent trader. You are a beginner trader. You're not those guys flipping accounts. You're not the guy on YouTube pumping out videos of these various strategies, or driving Ferraris. That's not where we're at. We're in the beginning stages, right? Maybe 5 or 10 years down the road, if you do what you're supposed to do now, you will be up there. But if you're just watching those guys trying to duplicate their results, what you're missing is the part that they never showed you when they were sitting behind their computer figuring it out, when they were on those charts back testing, when they spent those tears because they had to get their psychology right. That's what we have to focus on. Stop comparing yourself to Q Banks, Charlene FX, all these other folks. It's you versus you. Write down your problems, know what they are, and then work on them. Watch psychology videos, watch them frequently. Go and back test. This strategy works. You have to whip yourself into the strategy. You can't formulate a strategy around your lacking mindset, right? Do you have any questions over anything that we've talked about, or that you heard today on the video? I dropped a link to the video in the chat in the group. Okay, no questions. All righty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording here.